Welcome to Pep Talk and Pickleball, the podcast where we explore empty nest life, health, fitness, and nutrition, all with a side of pickleball fun. I'm your host, Jill Lewis, your guide through this exciting phase of life. As a certified faster way to fat loss coach and fellow empty nester, I'm here to share insights, interview experts, and yes, sprinkle in some pickleball talk. Join me for weekly doses of motivation and laughter as we navigate health, happiness, and pickleball passion. Grab your paddle, join the conversation, and let's dive into Pep Talk and Pickleball. Welcome back to Pep Talk and Pickleball. This is your host, Jill Lewis, and I'm welcoming a repeat guest. This is Rob Landis. He is a local hometown hero when it comes to nutrition. He is the best, and I'm so happy that he's spending more time with us here on the podcast. So welcome back, Rob.
Hey, Jill, thank you so much. And you have to forgive me from the very beginning because I have to say this. Let's put some meat on the bones of calcium today.
I love it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm going to use it. It just came to mind. So please forgive me, Jill.
That is perfect. That's awesome. Well, that is the perfect way to introduce what we're talking about today, which is all about calcium. And I was just telling Rob a little bit of background about why I think this is such an important conversation. I do think there's a lot of misinformation about calcium out there in in the industry, and I kind of want to debunk some myths maybe while we talk to Rob. But a lot of women want to know about calcium supplementation. For me personally, when clients come to work with me, they are complaining about a lot of inflammation in the body, whether it presents itself in feeling really bloated, low mood, maybe they're having skin issues. They have a lot of joint pain. I mean, there could be a number of different ways that inflammation rears its ugly head. But I always am, encouraging them for the first 6 weeks that they work with me, let's try going gluten and dairy free. Now, I think a lot of you out there understand why gluten, there's a lot of gluten intolerance in the world, but the dairy part really throws people for a loop because they think that's where I get a lot of my protein from. That's, dairy, I need dairy for calcium and I want to have strong bones. So that's why I wanted to invite Rob here to the podcast so we can kind of get into all of this. So Rob, let's kind of start at the basics. What is the role of calcium in our bodies?
Well, Jill, all of us know that the bones are primarily made up of calcium, right? As far as the most dense mineral in there, magnesium being right behind that. So that one's everybody knows about, but they're also involved, calcium's involved in metabolism within the muscles and the actual muscle contraction and the creation of the transmitters that actually tell the muscle to contract. So that's one that people forget about. And sometimes with muscle weakness or muscle pain, there is potential that it could be a deficiency in calcium, not always. And then it does play a role, as does K2, in clotting in the blood. So it's involved in some of the enzymatic conversions for that. That's the big three in the body that it does.
Okay. And when it comes to, obviously, Rob has a supplement store in our local town, and he is a guru on all of that, but he's also just really into health and wellness at its most natural form, which a lot of we can do to be the healthiest we can be is just in what we put in our mouths with food, right? With nutrition. So tell me, Rob, what do you think are the best just dietary sources that we can get our calcium from?
Sure. But, everybody knows about dairy. And Jill, that's probably why they are concerned whenever you suggest that potentially they avoid dairy for 6 weeks. But wheat, dairy, and eggs are the three most common food sensitivities that Americans have. And so it's wise probably to check those out and to see if one of those are a common irritant to those people. So dairy, yes. But one that I love and a lot of people forget about is bone-in fish. So that would be canned salmon, sardines, anchovies. That's a fantastic form of calcium, not to mention fatty acids and protein for individuals. And then green leafy vegetables are also rich. And I shouldn't say rich, but also are a source that people can find their calcium in.
Right. You're talking like spinach, probably kale.
Yes, kale. All those the green leaves are have a good source of that, and they're also high in folate and other good minerals that we need, as well as some vitamins.
Right. Okay. And if you were going to say like, a female, let's go with my age 50, concerned about bone loss, what's the current recommendation out there for, a female with calcium intake per day? Do you know that?
commonly people are recommended to take 1,000 milligrams a day above age 25. And then postmenopausal women, around the age 50 to 55, they actually suggest in the United States 1,200 milligrams. And as we'll talk about in a little bit, Jill, there's some concerns with that dosage for some women, and especially, or for some individuals, adults, and especially if they're just taking calcium alone. Now, in Europe, their recommendations are different than ours. So, for instance, in England, they only suggest 700 milligrams a day of calcium for an adult above 25. And for postmenopausal women, 700 to 1,200 milligrams. So a lot different. And the World Health Organization actually only suggests about 500 milligrams a day. So, and I tend to recommend the European amount. They're a little bit more current, I think, with the research on calcium.
That is really interesting. Now, do you think that is because Europeans or other countries are just naturally getting more into their diet, and maybe the like standard American diet is less, like we just aren't getting as much of those nutrients through our food? Or is there another reason for that?
Well, they do emphasize food sources of calcium in Europe more than we do here. Supplementation is more common with calcium in the United States than it is in Europe. I think you're right. I think that they emphasize food, getting it from food sources, and food sources release calcium more slowly into the body, so it's more likely to be utilized properly as compared to if we put a big bolus, a big large amount of calcium in at one time in a supplement form. Yeah.
Gotcha. Is there any like downsides in taking calcium, or, taking more than the recommended daily, suggestion there?
Yeah, Jill, you've probably seen, it was several years ago, some headlines about how calcium may increase the risk of heart cardiovascular disease and actually death from cardiovascular disease. And in excessive amounts, this appears to be true. I was just looking through some of the most current research, and there was a study published several years ago that they looked at about 12,000 individuals. There were men in this particular study, and there was a 20% increase in risk of cardiovascular disease from excessive amounts of calcium. They considered that above 1,200 milligrams a day. Now, I'm not trying to put fear about calcium in anybody, because we need it. It's necessary, as we've already discussed. It's just that when it's taken alone in large amounts, yes, there could be some problems. And then ones that we think less about, it might be kidney stones, because you have excess calcium needed to be excreted. So that might be another thing that people would think about. And then in some individuals, maybe constipation would also be something that when they take a large amount of calcium, that's a form that I won't recommend, which we'll maybe talk about the forms later on, that they might be more predisposed to that, to constipation as well.
Okay. Is it true that when you're taking calcium that you need to have like you should be taking it with other supplements in order for it to be absorbed better or metabolized better? Or is this like a supplement that you just take on its own and it does its thing?
Yes. Joe, this is the most important thing that we're going to talk about today, I believe.
Okay.
And we may see in Europe that the recommendations are lower because if you're getting calcium from more food sources, you're getting more of the other minerals, vitamins, and nutrients that are needed for proper bone metabolism, and calcium metabolism is what I should have said. So yes, we know that when people are deficient in magnesium, that they don't utilize calcium properly. And so that's an important mineral. And 50% of Americans are deficient in magnesium anyway, Jill. So that's one that is actually more susceptible to being deficient in calcium in this case. And then the one that is a huge superstar in this field is vitamin K2. So this is the form of vitamin K that you will get in like fermented products such as natto and cheese. And it is so important for calcium metabolism.
Now, what was that first thing you said before cheese?
Natto, like the fermented soy products. Yep. Egg yolks are also rich in vitamin K2, Jill. So, cheese is a great source for it, but of course, that's first 6 weeks. Maybe they're not going to be using that when they're doing faster way to fat loss. And so egg yolks are a rich source of it as well.
Okay. So if someone is taking calcium, they want to make sure that they are taking magnesium, or they're eating magnesium rich foods, right?
Yep.
Which would be, and give us some suggestions for that.
Yep. Let's go back to those green leafies. They're nice. Tree nuts, so pistachios, pecans, walnuts, Brazil nuts, all those are fantastic as well. And guess what? The bone-in meats are also good because they're a complete form of minerals. So it's got not just calcium, but also magnesium and other minerals that we need to create
Okay.
bones. And then Jill,
Gotcha.
here's in Japan, they provide vitamin K2 to women who have osteopenia via prescription because they found in high amounts it's very effective at increasing bone density along with calcium at lower amounts than what Americans take. So
Interesting.
think of vitamin K2 like this. Think of it like a seeing eye dog, and it says, "Hey, calcium, you come over here into the bones. Oh, go over here in my muscle. No, don't go over there in my heart valves, in my arteries, because you've heard part of the risk that we talked about of excessive amounts of calcium or heart disease. Well, vitamin K2 is one of the preventers of that. So, Jill, the exciting thing about vitamin K2 is vitamin K2 can be thought of like a seeing eye dog. It basically says to calcium, it directs it to our bones and to our muscles and other places where it's needed for enzymatic activity. But it says, hey, don't go into my valves or arteries. And that's what we alluded to earlier. The excessive amounts of calcium can sometimes increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. Vitamin K2 appears to be the to resist that and keep that from happening. So in Japan, they use vitamin K2 as a prescription to increase bone density in postmenopausal women.
So, okay, there's so many forms. It's kind of like magnesium. People are always asking me, like, which magnesium do you take? And, I'm like, well, I'm happy to tell you, but everybody has different needs and whatever, but I'm sure calcium is the same way. There's got to be a million different forms. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit and what they mean and why women would want to take one versus another.
Yeah. So Jill, you could go out in your driveway and pick up a rock and you could get calcium carbonate. You have lots of calcium, but it's not real bioavailable. And especially for individuals who might take Prilosec or other acid blockers, they don't chelate minerals very well. And so it's really important for them to have these forms that you and I are getting ready to talk about. So the most beneficial form that I found is called MCHA, and it stands for calcium hydroxyapatite. Now, this bone or this calcium is derived from calf bone out of New Zealand. And so it is actually ground up bone would be an easy way to think of it. And it is the form that has been shown in research to arrest the progress of osteoporosis. And in combination with resistance exercise, which I know all faster way ladies are doing, is that it can actually reverse osteoporosis in some cases. And so that's the form that I like the best. And again, it's MCHA, and that stands for calcium hydroxyapatite. And that's in a lot of the bone formulas that individuals will find, which we might want to talk about a little bit about some of the good ones of those. Now, Jill, you, I know, love to cook and you use eggs frequently. Did you know that you can grind up an eggshell and it's actually a good form of calcium? Not to mention that little slimy part on the inside of the eggshell membrane, is rich in hyaluronic acid, which, a lot of ladies will apply to their face, but it's really good when taken internally because it hydrates the skin, but it also lubricates the joints. So that's a cheap, easy way to create calcium with the food source if you're looking for one.
Wow, that is incredible. I've never heard that before.
Yep. Yeah. And I've had people tell me that when they use it like that, because of the membrane that's in there, that little slimy part, it really does seem to help sometimes with the joint because it lubricates the joints. Hyaluronic acid is very, very slick. And so that's what's nice about it. And then for the vegans, there's a calcium form called Aquaman, and it's created by an algae. And so it's in some products that vegans or vegetarians might be interested in. And it has some good research behind it, too, as far as stopping the progression of osteoporosis.
Okay. So when, someone comes into a nutrition store like yours and they're like, I need to take some calcium, you are going to direct them to that MCHA calcium that you were talking about?
Well, yes, but not alone. As we talked about earlier, we need magnesium and vitamin K2. But listen, Jill, when you think about a house, you don't just think about 2x4s. You think about nails and glue and shingles and siding and windows and electricity or wiring. And it's the same way when we create bone. And so like we have 2 supplements that have a complete formula. So they'll have horsetail, which is a form of silica. They'll have the magnesium, the vitamin K2, the vitamin D3, and several other nutrients in them that will allow your boron's another one that will allow your body to create a strong matrix in the bone and to facilitate these things called osteoblast, fancy word for these little guys that make bone. And then the osteoclasts actually break it down. And so sometimes some of the supplements will actually kind of dampen their activity so the bone's not being broken down as rapidly, but hopefully is being built a little more rapidly.
And what was the name of that one? Did you say horsetail?
Yeah, horsetail. Yeah, horsetail is rich in silica. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a plant source for silica, and silica is real important. And Jill, talking about bones, what do you think the most prominent form of protein is in the bone that acts like a glue and allows bones to be flexible? Just guess. You'll get it. If you'll guess the form of protein, you take it every day. I see you mix it up.
Oh, collagen.
Collagen.
Yeah.
Collagen is bones in young people and babies, and that's why they can fall and not hurt. And as we get older, it's less. It's less a percentage of our bone, and that's why it's so excellent that as we age, we utilize some collagen daily, because it's not just for skin and joints. It's really good for our gut, and in this case, we're talking about bone health, and it's really good for bones.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's great. Let's talk more about bone density and anything else of great importance in maintaining and then like preventing osteoporosis.
Jill, you can have the perfect diet, but if you don't do weight-bearing exercises, you're not going to have good bone density. So when individuals are doing resistance training, they're not just building muscles and tendons and improving their heart. They're also increasing the density of their bones and making it less likely that they would have a fracture later on. And so, yes, exercise and exactly the kind of stuff that I see you doing is some of the best ways that we can stimulate bone density and bone health and reduce the risk of fracture.
I think it's so interesting because, we talk about women so much with all of this. And when it comes to, bone loss and osteoporosis, we really don't talk about men hardly at all. And I was thinking about this and there was a few things that came to my mind. I'm like, why is this just for like females? And I'm sure it affects men to some extent, but I got thinking, well, women live longer for one, just as an overall statistic. So they're living longer. And we are the ones that are, pregnant and we're breastfeeding. I think that takes a toll on the body as well. I think we're naturally smaller, so we've already got smaller bones. I was thinking in our hormones, like I think there's a big part of this component is that, as we age and once we get through menopause, it's like our estrogen takes a deep dive. And I think estrogen is something that is in rapid decline, then, that's when we are more susceptible to this bone loss. So it's interesting. Maybe someone out there listening, I don't know what women's feelings are on HRT, that hormone replacement therapy, but that also might be something else for women to look into when it comes to making sure that they keep, bone strength so important.
Yes, absolutely, Jill. Men, testosterone builds, right? And you think about when you see somebody that has a lot of testosterone, you usually think of a man who's muscular and has a big, maybe has a good jaw and a lot of hair, and their bones are going to be denser too. And so, yeah, that's one of the things, that women don't make as much testosterone. And there's several other hormonal factors involved in the onset of osteoporosis, but that's obviously just one of them.
Yeah, for sure. And, things that could also compound all of this is if someone is smoking or drinking excessive alcohol, those are also going to be ways to just deplete your calcium in your body as well. So a lot of things to keep in mind when it comes to that. So Rob, tell us a little bit about you're always on here and giving us such great information, but tell us a little more about your store and like what drives you in learning all of this information and helping people to really not just kind of get through their day, but just because I know you want people to really thrive through their day and to feel great. So tell us a little bit about you, your store, and why you feel so strong about all of these, supplements and nutrition.
Wow. Jill, thanks for the opportunity to do this. I named this store Good Life for a reason, because I really want to help people have a good life. And it comes from a scripture in John 10:10 where Jesus said, I came to give life and life more abundant. And I think health is one of those things. You've been at times when you don't feel great, and it makes it hard to enjoy and to give and to be like we want to be maximally. And so that's what we're about here. I love helping people get healthier. If I could make $1 million selling donuts, I don't think I could do it, Jill. It would not appeal to me. But so my passion is that, and I love serving Southern Illinois. We've been in the same little spot for 27 years. I've only owned it for 17. But yeah, and last year was our best year ever. Thanks to, I think a lot more people are taking control of their health after the frustrations as they went through COVID. And it's really exciting to see, and especially people, I'm going to say my age, because you're a little bit younger than me, but I see that more and more. People are knowing I can take responsibility, and we're glad to be a part of that.
That's amazing. Tell us in your store, because I mean, obviously he has supplements, everything from collagen to magnesium, and you think you even have CBD in there. You have some protein things, but you even like make your own almond butter, peanut butter. Tell us about that.
Oh yeah, Jill, that was when I was young. We used to drive to Carbondale to the nutrition headquarters, and they made their own peanut butter there. And I always wanted a machine. And when I bought my store, I was like, I've got to have one. And so, yeah, we're really proud of our fresh almond butter and peanut butter. It's only roasted almonds and roasted peanuts, nothing else. And we put it in the fridge as soon as it's done pressed. So you don't have to go through the frustration of stirring it. Like when you buy natural peanut butter at the store, it's so frustrating to me to have the oil all over. So yeah, we do that. And of course, we have a good line of essential oils and several local products. You know, there's a local herb shop or herb company called Diamper. We have their full line in here. Ladies make the tallow balm here in town, the Gilead girls. And so we keep that and several other local products just to be a true local business and support what's going on here in our fantastic Southern Illinois community.
That's awesome, Rob. Tell me, what is your number one product that you sell?
Jill, we alluded to it earlier. It's the most prominent form of protein in the bones. And I know that you've seen this. I think you've seen this a lot in your practice, is that it's a protein that we don't consume, and it's collagen. We don't consume in our culture much anymore because we don't eat organ meats. We don't eat chicken skin and make bone broth. And collagen has so many benefits outside of just skin. It's so important for, like we talked about, guts and joints and your bones. So that's number one right now, Jill.
Second, that's awesome.
Yeah, it really is. And we own a house brand, you know, I think you've had it before.
Mm-hmm.
Proud of that. And vitamin D3 would be second. That people understand the importance of vitamin D3, not just for bone or calcium metabolism, but, you know, more so for prevention of seasonal affective disorder in the winter, and then immune system function and some cancer prevention. I just read a new study today about vitamin D3 and colorectal cancer prevention, and it was very exciting. So,
man, I'm telling you, there's so many supplements that help people in so many ways. It's so interesting. And yet that's not what makes the news. You know, we never hear about it. And vitamin D3, especially, it's like one of the most inexpensive, I think, supplements you can purchase. I mean, it is not expensive at all. And it does so much.
Yes, it's remarkable. Now, this time of the year, Jill, I encourage people to get 15 minutes of direct sun exposure to as much skin as they can, and slowly get used to that, because you can make up to 10,000 IU of vitamin D in 30 minutes in direct sunlight in the summer. So, and it's made as an oil. Your skin excretes it, and then it resorbs it. So that's why we don't want to shower immediately after sunbathing.
Really?
Yes, you want to resorb that D3 that's in the rich oil that's produced in your skin when it gets exposed to the UVB rays of the sun.
That's amazing. And just on like arms and legs, is that good enough?
Well, the more skin, the better, Jill.
Mm-hmm.
So, no.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So mow your grass in your bathing suit, I guess.
Hello, that's right. Yeah, or getting your birthday suit if you live out in the country.
You could, for sure, for sure. Oh my gosh, this is so informative. I just want to thank you again so much. I think so many women are going to really get some benefit out of hearing this conversation. Is there anything else that I missed on calcium that you want to talk about, Rob?
No, but Jill, I really love what you're doing in the community. I think the faster way is, as I watch what you teach, I'm so excited that this is something that women are learning about because they don't have to skimp on calories and over exercise and mess their hormones up. They actually, the way that you teach is so beneficial, not just to the way somebody appears, but to their total health. And so I just want to affirm that in you. And so thanks for letting me be a part of this today.
Thank you so much, Rob. Wasn't that a fantastic interview with Rob? I absolutely adore when Rob comes on and gives us some of his time. You know, as a small business owner, I know he's got a lot on his plate, but man, what just a guru. And, you know, that's why I think it's so important to go to a local nutrition shop when it comes to buying your supplements, because ordering them from Amazon or another big box store, I don't know. I worry about the quality control on those products and just making sure that you're getting the right dosage and how to take it. What should you take a supplement with? Does it need to be in conjunction with like other vitamins that he was talking about? Or is there certain, do you have to eat it with a meal? Do you need to be careful if you are on medications? Does it mess with do other medications mess with it? There's so many things about supplementation that you really do need to talk to somebody. And there's no one better than your local nutrition shop. Hopefully, you have a guru in your local community like I have with Rob. But, you know, if you don't, I'm going to put in the show notes the phone number to Rob's store, and you can certainly call in. And Rob does ship anywhere in the United States as well. So I am now back in Southern Illinois. As you can see, I am in, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see I'm in my gym slash office. And this is back in good old Southern Illinois, where let me just tell you that the weather, it does not always cooperate with pickleball. So pickleball here has been very windy, and we've been kind of trying to sidestep a lot of rain, which is typical for April and May in the Midwest. But it has been great to be back with my local friends. It's just so interesting how different the play can be and the different styles of pickleball around the country. So I'm curious if any of you that play pickleball out there have noticed this, how if you play in one location versus another, just how different it can be. When I play in Illinois, I feel like it's a lot, the pace is much faster. I don't want to say everybody here are bangers because that's not the case, but definitely it's more of a bang bang type of plays. And I feel like when I'm in Florida, it's definitely more of a finesse game and more placement. Not always, but there is a lot of that more dinking going on. So it's just interesting just to see how it goes. I have found that for me, what I'm working on in my game now is just really about shot selection and playing smarter, not necessarily trying to just play harder, meaning like not trying to be a banger, trying to place the ball and make better decisions. So a big one of those that I'm doing in pickleball is I'm really trying to keep my opponents back, keep them deep so that I can be there at the non-volley zone line, at the kitchen line where they are back, you know, keeping them deep. Keeping those balls hitting right at the baseline. When I'm playing, you know, because I play just open play. I don't have a partner that I play with all the time, which definitely makes it more challenging. But playing with different players a lot, I'll notice that when my partner might hit like a short shot, and I'm thinking to my mind, like, why? Not like an intentional shot where you just barely get it over the net. If they're very deep at the baseline, that totally makes sense. But one that you hit maybe like mid court, I'm like, don't invite them in. You know, I think that's kind of something that a lot of beginners or maybe 3.0 players, 3.5 are not quite thinking through is that you want to keep your opponents deep and do not invite them up to the kitchen. So that's kind of something I've really noticed in my game. I think that has improved is that I'm doing a much better job of keeping them back. And but man, there are still some shots just because I never, you know, I didn't grow up playing tennis and I don't have a ton of experience with the hand-eye coordinated sports. There are some players and they might be in their 70s that they were tennis players and man, they have shots that I just don't have that I really want to learn. So I do think, you know, I had Judy on the podcast earlier this year. I do think I'm going to get a couple of lessons with her this summer and just kind of talk with her about a couple of the shots that I want to learn and how to practice those. And it goes back to another thing. Practicing. I just go out there and we just start playing games. We don't, really do much in terms of just practicing shots. But there is a group that I think in the mornings, we're going to try. I don't remember which morning we're going to do it, but that we're going to work with Judy for like a little while, do some drilling before we actually start playing, which I think is going to improve everybody's game to the next level. And that's probably something that maybe if you have a group of friends that you play with, try to make yourselves do at least 30 minutes of drilling before you start playing games. Because what happens is that you're going to have bad habits. And the more you play with those bad habits, the more your muscle memory is going to keep doing that. And if you can do drilling to get and work on those habits and try to improve them, that's what's going to change. Because once you get into a game, I mean, all bets are off and it's just like all that goes out the window. So that muscle memory, I think, is so important. One thing I do for real, if you're watching me on YouTube, you can see this, is instead of taking a side step and taking a forehand shot, I have this really bad habit of taking my arm out. I call it the robot, and I do this backhand, like my elbow's up and my hand is down, literally like I'm doing the robot, and I'll go like that and hit it instead of stepping and hitting this way with my forehand. So the dumbest thing I can do, I don't know why I do it all the time. Now, if it's a bang bang play, sometimes it works, but it doesn't mean that that's a good idea, because more often than not, the stronger play would be just to take a step with my left foot and hit with, my right forehand instead of winging that right elbow up and hitting it with a backhand. Oh my gosh, I've got some work to do, but all good fun. Still playing some golf, trying to get back into that tonight. I'm actually going to play in a women's league in my town, just to kind of keep trying to get improvement with that. I did get a new set of woods and my driver. I got the Callaway Smoke. I am loving it, and I love my hybrids. Also got the Callaway Smoke hybrids, the 4 hybrid and 5 hybrid, that are absolute. I adore them. They're the best clubs ever. So can't say enough good things about those. If you're wondering, by the way, speaking of equipment, my pickleball paddle, I use the Carbon brand, which I love, CRBN, and I have the Carbon 2, I believe, is the one I have in the thinner paddle, not the thicker one. So good. Love that paddle. Got that last year. It's my favorite paddle I've definitely ever owned. Is on the pricey side, but if you're somebody that you think you're going to be playing all the time and you absolutely love it, I mean, I think it was worth the investment for sure. All right. Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for listening. And I can't wait to see you back here on Pep Talk and Pickleball. Bye. Got pickleball FOMO? Don't you worry. I've got you covered. Whether you are new to the sport or looking to up your game, I'm here to help. Hey, Empty Nesters, as a nutrition and fitness coach who's totally obsessed with pickleball, I've put together a free Pickleball 101 guide just for you. In this guide, you will discover the basics of the game. I'm going to simplify the rules for you. I'm going to give you some nutrition tips to fuel your matches and workout routines that are specifically tailored to pickleball, and some more insider secrets to help you ace on the court. Ready to join the pickleball craze and stay fit while having a blast? Click on the link in today's show notes to grab your free pickleball guide.